Hello, and welcome everybody to another special edition of the Quantum Compass. My name is David Fowle, and I'm going to be your navigator for today's episode. And really just wanted to put this video out in this moment on this powerful full moon in Cancer in the Western tropical system to look at some of the energies that are incoming over the next week or so. This is, as many of you can understand, a big moment, many big political situations are unfolding that could in many different ways change the nature of our society in general, and maybe even change some of the orientations of political systems in the world. I also want to preface this call with a heartfelt blessing out to all of our brothers and sisters who may be in the vicinity of Los Angeles. We've heard from many of you on the ground sharing your thoughts on some of the more nefarious activities, but also on the incredible community energy that people have rallied together and they're helping each other. And indeed, even just this morning, I heard more beautiful stories of people showing up to help their neighbors in these times of need. So for sure, sending out big prayers to all of our brothers and sisters, particularly any of those who may have lost possessions or their home or even loved ones in all of this. So this is a big moment, and whatever we might think personally about the situation in Los Angeles, including how it started, what were the causes. There are many, many different factors, of course, but also a lot of misinformation flying around. So when we were putting the Quantum Compass show together, myself and Bella, just a week or so ago, we were looking at different energies which we shared in that particular episode. But since then, I also had another look at some of the fixed star astrology that is happening on this full moon, which I want to share a short presentation with you in a minute, just to put some ideas into your awareness and perhaps as a pulse into the collective, and also to look at something coming up which seems very, very timely. We have two Cazimis taking place over this next week or so with very interesting timings. We have a Yeshua Cazimi, which I'll explain more about in a minute, but also we have a Pluto Cazimi happening on the 21st of January. So for those of you who've been watching either the Quantum Compass or indeed some of the shows that I did with our friend and colleague Leslie Shankman a while back, particularly last year, the Cosmic History Codes, where we were looking at a lot of the different Cazimi energies and seeing the involvement that our sun was having through this interaction with all of the other planets that we share this solar system with. And of course, some of our colleagues out there have been tracking the solar flares and the solar storms and understanding that there has been a huge level of activity from the sun Solano over the last month or so, but of course over the last few months. So what does all of this mean for the collective as we move forwards? Well, I'm just going to pull up now the charts. Let me just pull this up here. So here at the beginning of this presentation, I just put together, it's essentially much the same chart. But on the left, we have the full moon chart for today, which is the 13th of January, of course, 13 being the magic number of the goddess. And we have a lot of little dances and astrological things to look at. So we also have, interestingly, this evening, I believe, the moon eclipsing Mars. And Mars is still in its retrograde phase there. We can see it's at 27 degrees of Cancer, and this full moon is taking place at roughly 24 degrees. And then also with this weird retrograde motion that Mars is going to have at this time, it has a conjunction with the moon today, but then doesn't go into its full opposition with the sun for another couple of days, even though, of course, we have the full moon Central Time this afternoon at around about 4:30. So that's the chart on the left. Not so much looking at the general astrology. That's not the scope of today's show, but you can see I've included a few extra interesting asteroids that we've been alerting some of our tribe to recently, particularly those with the Christo consciousness, which includes the asteroids Yeshua, currently sat at 2749 of Capricorn. Also Sophia, his partner really in the Christo consciousness energy, sat at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, and actually interestingly in direct opposition to Sedna. And then also interestingly, another aspect we can say the same energy coming through the asteroids of Magdalena and Merlin. Some people believe that Merlin was also very much in the lineage of the Christo consciousness, of the time-traveling, skywalking avatar that many of us might know as Jesus or Yeshua. And interestingly, Merlin and Magdalene are in opposition to each other. So that's some of the little tidbits to look at. But on the chart on the right, you can see that I have included a bunch of fixed stars that we're going to have a little bit of a look for in a minute and try and decode into some sort of message. So the first ones, well, these are the stars rather, so I've listed them for ease of reference. So in the Cancer house, we have Castor and Pollux, also Gomeisa and Procyon, and then on the opposite side of the wheel, we have Delta Acolyte at roughly 2359 or 24 of Capricorn, and then the Peacock star Alpha Pavonis at 24 Capricorn, and then I also include another interesting star here, Alpha Indi at 29 Capricorn, not so much getting activated today, but later in the piece, as I will share shortly. So I just put together some slides to try and give some scope to what I think I've picked up on here and wish to share with all of you in this special episode. So just looking quickly at the energy of Castor and Pollux, they are the twin figures of Greek and Roman mythology, or sometimes known as Dioscuri, or the boys of Zeus. Castor was the mortal son of Tyndareus, the king of Sparta, while Pollux was a divine son of Zeus, the king of gods. As Zeus disguised himself as a swan to seduce Leda, the queen of Sparta, and she gave birth to the twins in the bird-like egg. So, as is often the case in these mythological stories, there are very interesting birth processes that happen for these two. But the twins were known for their athleticism and particularly associated with horses and sports. They joined Jason and the Argonauts on their quest for the Golden Fleece and were known for saving sailors from danger at sea. So all in all, seemed like relatively nice boys to hang around with. However, when Castor was killed, Pollux asked Zeus to share his immortality with his brother. Zeus granted their wish and the twins were transformed into the constellation known as Gemini, which is one of the 12 visible stars of the zodiac. Interestingly, of course, even though they represent Gemini, they, as fixed stars, have now slipped, as they do, little by little, to a position sitting in Cancer, hence why they're getting activated by today's full moon. So there are energies to both of these stars, which we'll just take a quick look at. Castor generally represents positive powers, however, teaches us the possibilities of the manifestation of our fears from our minds. This is a key part that I want to share today. When we are in the realm of quantum consciousness, as we are indeed now in the new Earth cuboid of the universe, we have to be aware that every thought that we have, every word that we utter, and every deed that we take has a ripple effect, as it always has done. But the emphasis now with the acceleration of the energies that are in play in this much more quantum timeline that we're all in now have much faster repercussions or causes and effects, we can say. So this is really teaching us the importance of being mindful during these times, particularly with a lot of the chaotic energy that is abounding, both in the narratives of the news, but also perhaps in the collective noosphere or mind space that we all share. And this star also teaches us that in order to find balance, we must accept that bad things that happen in life. We've talked about this many times before on other shows, that good and bad are just two dualistic, sometimes even polarized perspectives here in the realm of duality. But often actually, in fact, if not always, we can say that challenges present opportunities for growth and evolution. And for sure, that should never diminish anything that has caused loss of life or even loss of possessions, as I talked about at the beginning, as is the case currently in California. But maybe to understand that sometimes there are some lessons to be learned in the challenges that life presents us. And in doing so, we can learn to grow, or maybe even to help each other. And I really, truly pray that whenever we have difficult challenges or even disasters, however they're caused, that humans in general come together and support their neighbors, because that is really the emphasis of the Christ or the heart consciousness. And also that we will lose neither our faith or our creative awareness, as there is always light behind this. This is, again, the positive aspect of Castor that it wants to share with us, that that even when things look dark or difficult, as long as we have faith in the Creator and Great Spirit, and that we're following our intuition, that we're in our hearts, then everything is always as it should be. Again, our friend Dandelion always reminding us that everything is perfect. And when we have difficult or polarizing energies, we must aim to stand at the center and balance ourselves in polarity, not to get pulled this way or this way, but to maintain that balance. Pollux, on the other hand, is the total opposite of Castor. And Castor, who we could say maybe is like the star of beautiful daydreams, well, perhaps Pollux is more representing the nightmare world of phantasms, freaks, and our deepest fears. And we can see here this image, kind of with the boogeyman at the window while somebody's sleeping, maybe trying to infiltrate our dream space. And of course, without going into too many rabbit holes, we can understand that the fourth dimension, the astral planes, where we go when we sleep, where our consciousness, part of it naturally resides, has been very, very prone to manipulation or infiltration or even interference with more nightmarish energies, which somehow we can carry forwards as underlying programs. And when we have this star getting activated, either as it is in this case by this full moon, or as one of the natal fixed stars that we might have in our astrology, it can sometimes lead to this persona of feeling like we're stuck in some sort of permanent shadow war. And as somebody who has this star in Antares codes, I do know a lot about this. It creates this kind of fight or flight scenario where we're always feeling oppressed and always looking over our shoulder and wondering when the next nightmarish thing could happen, which is not a great way to live. It definitely induces some sort of ongoing level of PTSD, which of course is not really useful. However, in duality, we need Pollux to exist to counterbalance the energy of Castor, thus creating the dualistic polarities. So, you know, this is an important point that from the non-dual perspective of the 5D and above, we can rest more easily when we have these challenges or things that might divide us or polarize us. But in the end, it's all just part of the dualistic realm, which we've decided and agreed to incarnate into. Another star that's getting activated here in the mix, which somehow also gives a thread to some of the bigger narratives, the perhaps darker narratives of the collective experience coming to the surface. We have this star, Gomeisa, 22 degrees and 33 minutes of Cancer. It's part of the Felis Minor constellation and really represents the third eye of the cat goddess Bastet, who we see a representation of on the right-hand side. And she is the protector of mothers and children. She was also the provider of fertility, according to Egyptian beliefs. And it's believed that the future can be seen in the eyes of a cat. Anyone who's ever had a cat and looked into their eyes will often probably appreciate this. More than most, cats are very magical, enigmatic beings and can provide both a lot of love, but also a lot of magic in our lives as they sort of sit between the realms. But the reason I think this star is interesting right now and how it's getting activated on this full moon with Castor and Pollux also in the mix is perhaps this piece about the protection of mothers and children, and with so many difficult narratives starting to emerge in the collective about the entertainment industry, interestingly enough, Hollywood particularly, which has seen a lot of the burning this week, some of the celebrities' homes, and also a lot of the ire that is being directed at certain politicians in certain countries in Europe through social media right now, and the exposing of the bad treatment, the incredibly bad treatment of particularly women and children. We could understand that this is something that's very, very difficult for us all to digest. And the more it becomes apparent, the more people get called out, the more it's going to bring it to the surface for release. So we have that to contend with as well on this full moon, and perhaps that's something we should brace ourselves for, but also remember that when we're in the healing process, there is the need for something to get released. As it comes out, it comes into our awareness, and then it can be released fully. So who knows, but I found it interesting that this star was also getting activated on this full moon. Then we have this other great star called Procyon, the great feline star that is the heart of the cat being. However, this star also has some interesting aspects to it. When this is all coming from the cosmic history codes of the stellar nations, when the goddess energy left our realm through fragmentation, perhaps we can even say the fragmentation originally of Tiamat, what then came in its place, we can say, is a more even nightmarish labyrinth in the fourth dimensional realms, the astral realms, again, our dream space, that creates this experience a bit like on the right-hand side, where we are forced to confront all of those aspects of our shadow self until they've been fully released. And then the walls of the labyrinth can collapse, and thus we free ourselves. It's part of the ascension process. And whilst on the one hand, this is an extremely challenging place to find ourselves in the Hall of Mirrors, it is essential for us to have our stuff reflected back to us, because in doing so, it allows a new creation cycle to begin. So there are actually two of the stellar nations attached to this star. So one of them being the great feline star, the great feline aspect, sorry, of Procyon. And then the other one is the fact that it's a unicorn star, and it's the alpha star of Canis Major. It's the 8th brightest star in the sky. So it's one of those ones that's more easier for us to see as we look into the night sky. But this is a place of fire and creation where we get to choose our path. And so I find that interesting that this is also getting illuminated. Let me just loop back to show you again where that is. So this is at 25 degrees and 28 of Cancer, so very much in the mix. And what I'm feeling from this star with its two energies of the labyrinth, of the heart of the cat, what can happen when the goddess leaves our realm, when we get disconnected from our heart energy, when we get connected to that balance in ourselves of masculine and feminine energy, is that we're not able to be in this place of fire and creation. We're not able to jump into that space and reinvent ourselves and thus create that new creation cycle. So this is the high note, really, I think we can say in some ways of this star. But if we merge this with the energy of Castor and maybe even Dandelion again, we can start to dream of a new beginning for ourselves. We can step into the fires of creation that this unicorn aspect of this star offers us and allow ourselves to be reborn again in those flames. So hopefully you're now starting to get some of the energy that perhaps is getting illuminated here on the moon side of this full moon in Cancer in the Western astrology today. And actually, as we shared in the quantum compass, interestingly enough, this full moon, even in sidereal, is also happening in Cancer, although happening in much earlier degrees. So that's interesting as well. So this gives me the idea that whilst we might have a lot of challenges to face in the coming days, even I think between the period of today, this full moon, and even the Pluto Cazimi on the 21st of January, this is a very, very big week. A lot of etheric energy to work with, a lot of creation energy to work with. And perhaps if we don't allow ourselves to get divided or polarized and stay on target, we can remember that we are the creators. Any of you who've been watching me and Bella's shows for a while will know that we've been talking a lot about this. And again, like I said at the beginning, the importance of being mindful about what thoughts we have, whether we're in judgment, whether we're lacking compassion, whether we're in our heart, whether we're allowing ourselves to get pulled into other narratives, perhaps more Armageddon, doom and gloom, conspiracies, etc., etc. There are indeed many revelatory things happening in the etheric realms at this time, but as always, we suggest discernment where you take your readings from, and as always, run them through your body medicine. Maybe if you use a pendulum, you want answers on questions, you can dowse on them, or maybe like I do, go into meditation, maybe work with sacred plants and ask questions of the plants, of God, of your higher self. So in that way, you can come to your own truth, not necessarily one that you've borrowed or inherited or been provided by somebody else. On the other side of the wheel, we also have some interesting stars coming into play. I love the energy of the eagle. The eagle's perch perspective to me very much represents the 5th dimension, where we can have that non-dual perspective and take a more lofty perspective on anything and everything, including what may be dividing us or maybe triggering us, maybe those processes also happening to the collective, and how to maintain that point of center and balance that Castor and Pollux are trying to point us towards. So this particular star, pretty much touching 24 degrees of Capricorn, currently represents the wing of the eagle in the acolyte constellation. And this actually relates to taking up our mission and the fact that we have said yes to our destiny. And in doing so, we now have the next steps of our initiation awaiting us. Because really, when we understand the ascension ladder, the 13 steps of creation that we've talked a lot about, that we work with through the Mayan time codes, particularly with the navigation guide to quantum consciousness that we've showed with you all before, and which of course you can access on quantumplanet.world. What that really is another series of initiations. And again, for those of you who are more au fait with the stellar nations, and we learn about the energies of the male serpents and the need to be teachers of integrity or healers of integrity, perhaps more from the female serpent line. This then takes us back to the leadership and noble qualities of the winged lions. The lions, of course, representing these things, and also very much connected to the leadership qualities of the great felines. And so this reminds us that we have the potential to step up into the fullness of ourselves. But in order to do so, we have to go through initiation, sometimes very challenging initiations, sometimes of having to let go and jump into the abyss with the faith in the process of our divine destiny, which can be very, very challenging because sometimes it is in direct opposition to what we might perceive as the matrix or the anti-grid that really doesn't want us to become sovereign beings. So I like the energy of this star, of the wing of the eagle, because it encourages us to be brave and to step into our initiations. So this is happening on the opposite side from the stars we just talked about, but is also, of course, getting triggered through this full moon. This is a really beautiful star, which is very, very close at 2410 of Capricorn, so also bang in the mix. This is Alpha Pavonis, called the Peacock star, which is actually really connected to the great Panthera Queen Fa, or Pa, and is a wonderful 8th dimensional star. Remembering, of course, the 8th dimensional qualities, particularly from the unicorn energy, is very much about creation and about working with our creative energies or our etheric potentiality. And this particular star guards and transmits the stellar rays towards the entire universe, keeping watch over the sacred flame. And the sacred flame consists of the flame of divine truth, the flame of freedom, and the flame of free will, all of which this beautiful being, the great Panthera Queen herself, holds dear in her heart. She wants humans to be sovereign, to experience free will. The great feline cat beings, of course, the protectors of not only the goddess, this particular aspect of the goddess being the Panthera Queen, but also free will itself. And that is the journey that we signed up to participate in at this time, is the journey from slavery to sovereignty. And of course, if we look back in history, any journey of that note has always had its challenges and requires courage and fortitude, and able to break free from those shackles. So if you have this star in your chart, and if you're not so aware of stellar nations, you can have a look at your natal astral birth chart. And if you have anything from round about 21 and a half or 22 of Capricorn to around 26 and a half of Capricorn, if you have any significant placements there, then this star is probably also getting super activated for you at this time, or amplified. But bearing in mind, this is a reading on the mundane energies, particularly because we're using the Western tropical system, although a lot of it seems to hold relevance across both systems, although with different perspectives perhaps. So if you have this getting activated in your chart, this will further amplify that sense within you of the need for freedom and self-realizing power that is hidden in independence, and being independent beings that are not reliant on anything else, anybody else, being self-sufficient, and having that inherent deep belief in freedom itself. So a very, very empowering star that I believe, when we think about the 8th dimensional qualities that it offers us, the sense of sovereignty that it offers us, and we look across to where the moon is activating those other stars we just talked about, again, I feel this huge emphasis today on this choice point. And I do realize that this video is coming out a little on point, just a few hours before the full moon, but the energy that it carries with it is an illumination. This is a full moon, of course, illuminating the energies that we put into the new moon just a couple of weeks ago, but it's also on that 6-month cycle from when we had the full moon in on the opposite side of the wheel, we can say, before. So there's always this 6-month cycle that we have with the lunar nodes, and we're coming to a conclusion of that cycle. So there are many things ending, many things beginning. Of course, in the Western astrological system, there's going to be a change of the nodes, with the North node moving from Aries into Pisces. Again, interestingly, in the sidereal system, as we showed in Quantum Compass, the North node is already in Pisces. So we have this other energy coming through here in different ways of Pisces, of the Christ consciousness energy, which I'll come to in just a second. But as we move to a later point in this week, bearing in mind, of course, that this full moon is happening around 24 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn, we have 2 other aspects appearing later in this week. And this one perhaps gives a little precursor to many things that might already be on many people's mind. And this star is Alpha Vulpeculi, which I've titled here The Shadow of the Sharks. So this actually comes out of the whale nation. and is a little bit of a fall from the Well Nation, the great travelers of the universe, rewiring the morphogenetic fields, and on the redemption path home that the fallen angels embark on. This star is currently positioned in the anaretic degree of Capricorn 2936, but can represent a sudden betrayal by those people we really trust. In fact, often from those people whose job it is to protect and support us. So again, without delving too much into some of the nefarious storylines that may be starting to appear in the collective, I think that when we look over the last 4 years and we start to contemplate many of the difficult health situations that people have been experiencing recently, many of the sudden fatalities, particularly from people early in life, possibly linked to offered medications or indeed long-term medication in general. We understand that the people who were prescribing some of these medications perhaps actually were not necessarily in their integrity, and perhaps we can perceive that they may have been wanting to not follow these principles of protecting and supporting us. So this energy can also indicate healers or psychopomp workers getting betrayed or attacked. And again, I want to keep the vibration high in this video, but it's in the mix, and so it would be remiss of me not to draw attention to. I nearly did leave this one out because this is perhaps a bit more difficult to talk about. But for the last few years, many people working in the healing arts world, working as healers or even psychopomps, the people that assist the recently departed from assisting them to cross the veil, which is work that I actually have done myself for many years, assisting recently departed souls to return to their fullness in the land of their ancestors. So many people have faced a lot of challenges over the last few years from the established, or we can say the more established order of Western medicine. So I wonder whether this star is indicating perhaps that we need to be in our heart as some of these revelations start to come more into the collective awareness, and people are confronted with the possibility that perhaps some of the things that they've allowed or been given from certain quarters into their physical systems perhaps have not served them in the ways that they were promised that they would. Of course, within duality, we can also understand that even with those choices, that nothing is determined. There is always a way through everything. And perhaps those are particular lessons that we have chosen for ourselves. And perhaps rather than sitting waiting for things to happen, now is the time to take action. If you are sensing that maybe your health is not where you would like it to be for whatever reason, I definitely urge taking action, as with anything, because without taking action, probably things are going to escalate and get worse. And cancel, delete, that's not anything that we necessarily want for ourselves. So here is the other interesting star that is getting activated by the energies, particularly of the sun towards the end of this week. And this is a very intriguing star called Alpha Indi that also sits in the anaretic degree of Capricorn at 2912. And this star is really represented by an indigenous shaman being, we can say, holding 3 arrows in a spear whilst it rides on the back of a whale. And this star really is a little enigmatic in its own way. But this star can be understood to represent what happens to us whilst we're returning home, perhaps as redeemed angels, if we have this star on our natal birth charts, on the back of a whale, and understanding what happens when our own codes or our DNA is getting activated. We are then realizing that we are all somehow our own indigenous medicine person. At least this is what I believe. I've always felt that we all have our own inner physician, our own inner shaman, however you understand that word. And through activating our codes, our DNA, our internal quantum technology, we become our own inner physician, and thus perhaps able to overcome some of the things I just talked about. If we are suffering from ill health, however that may have happened, and as many of you will know from this year, from the accident that I had earlier this year, I've had to employ a lot of meditational activities, going inwards, meditating with the bones, the ligaments in my feet, assisting them to heal, giving them a lot of love, staying positive, not allowing myself to fall off the abyss into a place of victimhood or doom and gloom. When the accident happened, I knew the prognosis wasn't good. And I had to confront the possibility of perhaps never walking again. And I didn't believe that that was my future. And so I worked very hard on staying in a very positive place, working with my own inner quantum technology, my own inner DNA, my own inner shaman, to make sure that I came to the place that I'm now in, which is almost able to walk again. I still have a little bit of pain, but I don't really have to use the crutches anymore. And I'm more able to move around freely now than I have since the accident, and every day that gets a little bit better. But a lot of that is testament to staying positive. And so I really want to share that with all of you who may have suffered bad accidents, will be recovering, or maybe not feeling so good in your physical body, that with calmness and meditation and trust and faith, particularly in Great Spirit, that we can overcome almost anything, including physical disabilities. So what's really intriguing about this star is that it's going to get triggered very, very strongly by a Yeshua Cazimi. So in my deep dives into the world of asteroids, as many of you will know that I like to do, I was looking for particular signatories, we can say, of the Christ consciousness, or the Christo, which is really, as we're understanding in our tribe, the sixth dimensional capacity and above frequency that we can enter into, both within ourselves, but also in partnership of the masculine and feminine energies. This is the balanced higher notes of the serpent beings, the female being the healer lineage and the male being the teacher, which of course, for those of you that have followed us for a while or have looked into this, or in fact have worked with stellar nations, will understand this very much directly relates to some of our more recent off-planet ancestors, the Anunnaki, the Nibirans, or who are really from the Syrian star constellation originally, and all of their roles in our own DNA experiences, and that's also a much bigger piece. But really, what we understand is that the higher notes of these DNA codes allow for transformation. It's a very strong element of magic. And this, of course, is what the energy of Yeshua and Sophia, or Magdalene and Yeshua, coming into play. So when I was looking at the charts and pulling in these extra asteroids for this period, I was delighted to find that the asteroid known as Yeshua is sitting at the anaretic degree of Capricorn also, and is going to have a Yeshua Cazimi. Now, I'm not sure whether there is really such a thing as Cazimis for asteroids, but we can understand that the Sun and Yeshua are going to come into this conjunction at the anaretic degree of Capricorn just 2 days before the Sun passes into the zodiac sign of Aquarius here in the Western tropical system, and then has this Pluto Cazimi on the 21st of January. And of course, anyone following the political situation in the US knows that there are some big moments, or a big day coming the day before that, on the 20th of January. And a lot of eyes are looking at what may or may not happen on that day. So I found it interesting that these particular stars, this one of the inner shaman, but also the one perhaps that indicates betrayal and the need to rise above that energy and take a much more proactive, sovereign approach to what may be going on for ourselves, or indeed what is going on for the collective. And we have this wonderful opportunity here with the Sun, Solano, conjuncting very strongly with this asteroid named after Yeshua, which really, I think, is invoking that sixth dimensional and above Christ consciousness energy. And of course, just a few days before this Yeshua Cazimi, we have this opposition between the Sun and Mars also. So really, this is what I wanted to bring into everybody's awareness today, is to stay in that heart space, to stay in the energy of the Christ consciousness, to try to remain sovereign, to remain boundary, but most of all, what we are really feeling here, myself and Bella, is that this next 6 days between this full moon and this Yeshua Cazimi, even the Pluto Cazimi, with everything that a Pluto Cazimi brings, is to stay in a very, very positive creational energy, working with our own ether energy. In fact, here in QPW, we've been working with the elements very strongly over the last 6 weeks with the Heaven on Earth course that we've been doing. And interestingly enough, we just stepped into the space, the final module that we are going to be releasing on the 19th. Also, all pre-decided before this came into our awareness, is the energy of ether. So again, micro and macro here within our tribe, with ourselves also, we're working with the medicine wheel, working with the elements, and understanding that we, the creators, can't switch off when we understand our true creative responsibilities. we understand that we need to be mindful at all times and to stay in our heart consciousness, no matter what the narratives might throw at us. So I want to share all of this as first of all, something uplifting, something positive for us to take into this period in case we are confronted with the challenges, in case things happen to us on the ground around us, particularly for our brothers and sisters in LA and California in general. We understand there was also an earthquake in San Francisco last week. There was also an earthquake in Mexico, in Michoacan. And so there is a lot of movement out there, a lot of kinetic energy wanting to play itself out. And we must never forget that we are guests here, of course, on our beloved planet Earth with Pachamama, with Gaia. And she also is going through her own ascension process, is also wanting to cleanse and purify things that we've been talking about for a long time here on our YouTube channel. And perhaps this is a moment where we need to stay in our centers, as Castor and Pollux are reminding us that, yes, stay with the high vibration energy, but don't allow ourselves to fall into despair or into the abyss and perhaps fall into a state of victimhood. Why is this happening to me? You know, bad things always happen to me. Well, you know, if that's how you're feeling, you know, one of the things that we've been sharing as a tool to work with this is understanding that when we have challenges or we confront shadow energy, what we're actually being given the opportunity to do is to work with that universal flame to transform the fuel that we have. That's apparently the great thing about our shadow and our density is that it's fuel for the sacred flame within us, and that flame burns deep within us. And when we work with that and we work with our divine destinies, the creative spark that Great Spirit gave us, we can use these challenges as a way to propel ourselves into our destiny timelines, into our new Earth timeline, this new Earth cuboid of the universes. Our friend and mentors, the Ascended Master Zach, has shared with us before. So that's it really for today, everybody, on the astrology note. I do also want to... yeah, here's more of the, sorry, there was a few extra slides I hadn't seen, just to give you some more of the information about the Yeshua Cazimi, how it needs to be balanced, but also to draw your attention to a brand new course that is starting actually in just a few days' time on the 16th of January, which is the QPW Flying School. It's going to be hosted by myself. Just a short, really foundational course on how to work with sacred plant medicine, particularly Santa Maria or cannabis, and the sacred fungi or psilocybin, how to work with it responsibly, how to work with it respectfully, how to work with it safely, but also how to work with intentions, how to work with intentions that perhaps come from information like what I've just shared, or some of the other courses that we've shared on QPW, all of which are initiations, the navigation guide to quantum consciousness, the mind, time, and magic, the path of the Jaguar, heaven on earth. These are all initiation steps. Really what we're doing on QPW is creating a mystery school for initiates who want to become cosmic humans, to integrate their DNA. And as many of you will know, I've long been a lover of plant medicine in general, and working with the sacred teacher plants has allowed me to cross the realms of consciousness in many, many different ways, to bring back information, sometimes to be shared as teachings publicly or with Bella through the QPW platform, sometimes for personal inner work. And yeah, we start the course on the 16th of January. It's just 4 parts. You can see more information on the website by going to the courses and looking up the Flying School. It's in 4 parts, 4 live calls, all which will be recorded with the opportunity to ask questions at the end of, but also these live calls will be in the form of presentations that can be accessed at any point. So this is a course you can join, as indeed with all of the courses on QPW at any point. And also just putting a call out to all of you who perhaps have jumped into some of those courses like the navigation guide, but maybe haven't finished them. We're going to be having a big tribe-wide call in just a couple of weeks to herald the beginning of spring, where we're going to be looking at the new direction that QPW is taking in sharing how we can all level up to that place of becoming more integrated cosmic humans, not just occasionally here and there on the weekend when we have time for it in between everything else, but actually living from that space, understanding that our multidimensional consciousness is present with us at all times and can be accessed at all times, especially in those moments of the challenges where we can really work with the anchor points that we've created for ourselves, with our higher selves, with the assistance of other powerful allies, of course, particularly, like I've shared today, the Christ consciousness through the masculine and feminine energies of Yeshua and Sophia, but also, of course, other powerful beings, such as elemental beings or angelic beings, to assist us in our evolutionary path. So if that sounds like something that you'd like to participate in, please do, of course, either contact us directly or just go straight to the course page, which I'll put in the show notes. And please do join us as we'll be going through these 4 different modules, looking at all of these different aspects, and also talking about things such as sourcing your medicine, of course, depending on where you are in the world, dosage levels, scene and setting, integration, and how to continuously work with all types of plant medicine in conjunction with each other, and thus becoming quantum plant alchemists. So here we have the overall course outline. Of course, 4 different chapters: setting your journey space, navigating the journey, orientating your compass and discernment, understanding how to keep your space nice and clear, what you might confront, friend or foe, how to deal with difficult energies or situations mid-journey, and how to continually keep evolving your healing, your journey space into the place that that it wants to go to, and how to extract the essence of those journeys and then bring them into a place of integration. And of course, there is the URL for that. So really hoping to see more of you who I know from our audience love to work with these medicines also, and perhaps how to take your connection with these beautiful teacher spirits to a new level and to assist you in your ongoing path. So really hoping that you can join me for that. So that is it for the little presentation. Thank you for taking time out to listen today. If you have made it this far to the end, please hit like and subscribe. We are still going through our ongoing process with the YouTube algorithms, and really hoping that our messages that we put out through the various communications that me and Bella put together, the Quantum Compass, but also the energy updates, do reach as many people as possible. We are both very committed to the ongoing evolution of human consciousness, the ascension process, and this new timeline that we're on, but also understanding that where one goes, we all go, and it's a collective effort, and perhaps understanding that our role as teachers and guides in this is to assist in helping people get to the same place that we're in, that many other people in our tribe are also in, having done their own initiation, some of us and maybe some of other people. And everyone reaches their initiations and their healings and their teachings in the right moment. And of course, more of the wise words from our friend Dandelion, which, by the way, I recommend taking at this time. Always a good time to work with Dandelion. Also, if you've been suffering a little bit from some flu symptoms or any of these kinds of pathogens that may be coming into your system, always remember that this is a great time of the year to work with the elder mother medicine. The elderberry tree syrup is one of my favorite medicines anyway. I love the taste of it, but it also, whenever I take just a little bit of that magical medicine, if I have a little tickle or starting to feel my immune system just taking a little bit of a hit, within 24, 48 hours, I'm feeling great again. You might also want to think about taking some horsetail at this time. Very, very good for dealing with the ungrounding energies that perhaps some of the solar flares or the collective angst of the noosphere of everybody at this challenging time where many people may be going through it can, for those of us who are sensitive, perhaps have a slightly ungrounding effect. And horsetail not only allows us to transmute those energies, but also to open up to receiving more light, which of course is part of the process too. So, yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time out to listen to this little broadcast. Hopefully those energies have inspired you to stay centered, to stay grounded, to stay optimistic, and also remember that you have a massive role in this, not least of all for yourself, but also by taking those steps for yourself, you are giving something to the collective imperative as well. And the more of us that step up in this place of sovereignty at this time, the more that energy will reach the collective, and the more that will keep shifting as these powerful compression points and energetic shifts are taking place here on our beloved planet Earth. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you found that useful. And please do always feel free to share our videos if you think other people can benefit. And if you made it this far, well done. You have definitely earned another golden star. Or maybe actually today, no, we're going to do a full moon. If you made it to today, you you get a golden moon. So as always, having a bit of fun here with these videos. And thank you again if you have made it this far. Take care in Lakesh, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.